Solomon, the son of David and Bathsheba, ascended to the throne of Israel at a pivotal moment in the history of the Hebrew people. The transition from David's reign to Solomon's was not just a change in leadership, but also a turning point for the kingdom of Israel. David had established Israel as a significant power in the region, and now it was Solomon's duty to not only maintain but also expand this legacy. However, Solomon's wisdom was not just a bestowed gift, but also a reflection of his character and his relationship with God. In 1 Kings 3:14, the narrative of Solomon asking for wisdom from God in a dream is key to understanding who he was as a leader and as a person. This request for wisdom, more than an act of humility, was an acknowledgement of his dependence on God to rule justly and effectively. Verse 3.3 emphasizes his devotion. Solomon showed his love for the Lord by walking according to the instructions given him by his father David, except that he offered sacrifices and burned incense on the high places. This love and respect for the traditions and laws established by his father David established Solomon as a king who valued continuity and faith. God, impressed with Solomon's request, granted him not only the wisdom he sought, but also wealth and honor. This divine act meant that Solomon would not just be a wise king, but also a ruler blessed with prosperity and respect. However, Solomon's wisdom was not merely intellectual. It manifested in his ability to understand the complexities of human nature, justice, and governance. One of the most well-known accounts that illustrates Solomon's wisdom is the judgment involving 2 women and a baby, found in the book of 1 Kings 3:16-28. In this episode, Solomon demonstrated not only his ability to discern the truth, but also his deep understanding of maternal psychology. By suggesting to divide the baby in 2, he revealed the true mother, who preferred to give up the child rather than see it killed. This judgment was not just a reflection of his ability to make just decisions, but also of his capacity to understand and deal with human emotions and motivations. Therefore, Solomon's wisdom established a standard for leadership and was a central pillar of his reign. It allowed him to rule with justice, effectiveness, and compassion, earning the respect and admiration not only of his people but also of distant nations. His reign was marked by decisions and judgments that were remembered and respected for generations, making him one of the most venerated kings in biblical history. The construction of the temple in Jerusalem under Solomon's reign is one of the most emblematic moments in biblical history. This project, detailed in chapters 6 and 7 of the first book of Kings, was not just an architectural feat but also a powerful symbol of the relationship between God and the people of Israel. The temple served as a central place for worship and sacrifices, solidifying Jerusalem as an undisputed spiritual center. Beyond its religious significance, the construction of the temple showcases Solomon's administrative ability and vision. He not only oversaw an extensive and complex building project, but also established strategic alliances to secure the necessary materials and labor. Solomon imported cedar from Lebanon and hired skilled artisans, demonstrating an advanced understanding of resource management and international diplomacy. The dedication of the temple, a magnificent event described in chapter 8 of 1 Kings, was more than an architectural celebration. It was a moment of profound spiritual significance. The temple symbolized the permanent presence of God among his people. Solomon's dedication prayer, a powerful intercession for Israel, reflects his understanding of the importance of the temple not just as a physical structure, but as a sacred space where heaven and earth meet. During Solomon's reign, Israel experienced an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity. This flourishing was not limited to material wealth. It was also a time of cultural and intellectual advancements. Under Solomon's leadership, Israel became a center of wisdom and learning, attracting visitors from distant lands, including the famous visit of the Queen of Sheba, a testament to the grandeur and wisdom of Solomon's kingdom. Solomon's reign, marked by stability, wealth, and cultural centralization, set a gold standard for the kings who followed him. The construction of the temple was a milestone that symbolized not just the faith and devotion of the people of Israel, but also Solomon's ability as a leader to unite spirituality, culture, and governance. However, this period of great prosperity and peace also sowed the seeds for some of the future challenges Solomon would face, marking a high point in his reign that would be remembered for generations. Solomon's marriage to 1,000 wives and concubines from various nations is one of the most controversial and intriguing aspects of his reign, as narrated in 1 Kings 11:1-8. These unions, though politically strategic, represented a clear violation of divine commandments, which warned against such alliances with idolatrous peoples. The implications of these marriages were profound and multifaceted, affecting not only Solomon's spiritual integrity but also the stability of the entire kingdom of Israel. Verse 11:4 highlights the spiritual consequence of these relationships. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. This verse underlines the tragic shift in Solomon's heart, who, despite his unparalleled wisdom and understanding, was led away from his monotheistic faith and into idolatry. The diversity of his wives, bringing with them their pagan beliefs and religious practices, gradually influenced Solomon to erect altars and shrines for foreign gods. This act of infidelity was not just a personal betrayal of his faith, but also a serious deviation from the expectations and laws established for the king of Israel. As the spiritual and political leader of Israel, Solomon's worship of other gods not only compromised his relationship with God, but also signaled a moral and spiritual weakening that would have lasting ramifications for the people of Israel. Beyond the religious implications, Solomon's marriages also had a political and social impact. They reflected the diplomatic practices of the time, where marriages were often used to seal alliances and maintain peace between nations. However, the cost of these alliances to the spiritual and cultural integrity of Israel was immense. The introduction of foreign cultures and religious practices within the kingdom began to erode the unity and unique identity that had been established under David's reign. This period of Solomon's life serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of disobedience and losing focus on divine guidelines. Despite his unparalleled wisdom, Solomon failed in a fundamental aspect, remaining faithful to the God of Israel. The story of his inclination towards foreign gods and the subsequent deterioration of his reign is a testimony to the complexities of power, influence, and human vulnerability to the temptations of wealth, power, and cultural diversity. Solomon's downfall is a crucial and dark chapter in his story, marking a dramatic turn in his prosperous and wise reign. This phase of decline is detailed in 1 Kings 11:9-13, where God, deeply displeased with Solomon's infidelity, pronounces a severe judgment. Verse 11:11 is particularly significant. So the Lord said to Solomon, "Since this is your attitude and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees, which I commanded you, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates." This divine judgment not only symbolizes God's disapproval, but also signals a dramatic change in the fate of the kingdom of Israel. Solomon's worship of foreign gods and the construction of pagan altars represented a direct breach of the laws and commandments God had established for Israel. Solomon's disobedience had profound implications, not just for him as an individual, but for the entire kingdom. His decision to turn away from God resulted in the divine promise that the kingdom would be divided after his death, an event that would mark the end of the era of Israel as a unified and powerful kingdom. This period of Solomon's life is a powerful illustration of the consequences of disobedience and idolatry. Despite his wisdom and accomplishments, Solomon failed to maintain his fidelity to God. This failure was not just a matter of personal disobedience, but also a failure in his role as the spiritual leader of Israel. As king, Solomon had the responsibility to guide his people in worshiping God and observing his laws. By straying from this path, he not only compromised his own relationship with God, but also negatively influenced the spiritual course of the entire nation. The narrative of Solomon's downfall is a vivid reminder that, no matter how great one's wisdom or power, obedience to God and adherence to His commandments are fundamental. God's judgment on Solomon underscores the seriousness with which God views faithfulness to His covenant and the gravity of idolatry. Solomon's story, in its complexity, highlights human vulnerability and the constant need for spiritual and moral vigilance, especially for those in positions of great power and influence. The legacy of Solomon, king of Israel, is a rich and complex tapestry woven with threads of wisdom, prosperity, human failings, and profound spiritual teachings. Although remembered as the wisest king, a magnificent builder, and a leader under whose reign Israel reached its zenith, Solomon's story also serves as a warning about the dangers of complacency and spiritual infidelity. Solomon began his reign with a divine promise of wisdom and wealth, which he used to enhance his kingdom and establish Israel as a powerful and respected nation. Under his leadership, the Temple of Jerusalem was built, serving as a spiritual and cultural center for the Jewish people. His decisions and judgments, full of wisdom and discernment, are remembered to this day and have been a source of inspiration and guidance. However, Solomon's story is not just one of glory. The narrative of his life shows a gradual but significant spiritual decline. Solomon's infidelity to God, particularly his worship of foreign gods and the construction of pagan altars, demonstrates how even the wisest and most powerful can be vulnerable to temptations and influences. This part of his life serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of disobedience and losing focus on divine guidelines. Despite his failings, Solomon made significant contributions to biblical wisdom. Books like Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, traditionally attributed to him, offer deep reflections on the nature of wisdom, the futility of vanity, and the pursuit of the true meaning of life. These writings reflect a keen understanding of the complexity of human experience and the universal desire to find purpose and truth. Therefore, Solomon's legacy is twofold. On one hand, he is an example of greatness, wisdom, and success. On the other, his life serves as a warning about the dangers of arrogance, idolatry, and straying from God's ways. He embodies the eternal struggle between fulfilling one's aspirations and maintaining fidelity to spiritual principles. Solomon's story teaches us that, regardless of earthly accomplishments, true wisdom lies in humility and fidelity to God. His achievements and failures offer valuable lessons on the importance of balancing earthly power with spiritual values, a message that resonates through the ages. May our hearts always be turned towards God's plans. Amen.